Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. Gain valuable insights by attending the podcast, then complete the assessment test to download your certificate. To do this, follow these simple steps. Click on the link in your description to access the session. Create a free account and attend the podcast. After the podcast, take the assessment test and download your certificate. It's easy, and it's free. We highly recommend checking out our subscription.
So let me understand this right. So you have filed installed, I believe it's an agent, right? So you have it installed in your machine and then you get the agent on. So the agent is kind of like watching everything that you're doing. So it's able to analyze everything that you're doing and then come up with suggestions in which you can optimize your work and get things done quicker. Have I?
So think of it as, as you start listening to music through Apple Music and Spotify, your suggestions become clearer and music is given to you in the way that you like to receive it.
Nice.
Decisions are very similar. As a tax professional, you know how you handle maybe aggressive depreciation, or if you use straight line depreciation methods in your practice. And working with File, we effectively ingest all of that previous information that's buried away on all the previous year's tax returns that you've worked on. We surface some rules, some playbooks effectively, and then you kind of change the knobs. You kind of fine tune, and we want to be a little bit more focused on rounding every cent to a dollar, just for ease of sake. We look at deductions that are less than $50 on lunches and so on and so forth. So you set some rules, right? You have some practice generic rules that
You gotta.
business.
Yeah.
And more importantly, our agents follow that rule to now effectively find the best tax strategy for any given taxpayer that a firm works with, and then just follows that process just like a junior would in gathering the documents.
Hey everyone, welcome back to We're Trying to Figure Out. I'm your host Saul, and today we are trying to figure out AI, tax, and what happens to the accounting profession when a robot doesn't just file your return, it writes your job description too. Joining me is Leroy Kerry, founder and CEO of Filed, an AI powered tax automation platform that's aiming to fix two huge problems: complex tax work and the talent drain in our profession. We're going to talk about what's real, what's hype, and what's the future looking like for all of us, whether you are a 20-year CPA or a college student thinking, wait, is accounting even worth it anymore? So, with that, Leroy, welcome to the show.
No, thanks for having me, Saul, and looking forward to discussing more on the topic with you.
Absolutely. Now, let's get people caught up. You're building something pretty powerful with Filed. For folks who haven't heard of it yet, what is Filed and what problems are you trying to solve?
Yeah. So firstly, Filed is building an AI workspace for tax professionals, individuals to essentially, you could say, automate a lot of the low value tasks that come with
Mhm.
getting clients' documents in order, creating a checklist, looking at
Right.
what's missing, having to chase your client again, and then effectively bringing that work over to the first stage of preparation, where, of course,
Right.
you're not only just using those documents, but you're also using a lot of context that you've developed as a professional over the course of the year, or maybe even over the course of just a few days working with a client, and then applying that judgment decision that you make on how you handle depreciation, how you handle assets, and so on and so forth. And then effectively bringing that into the tax software directly. So Filed sits as an AI agent that operates on top of all of your existing systems, and effectively, you could say, streamlines and automates a lot of the work that people, tend not to want to find themselves doing 80-hour work weeks on.
So let me understand this right. So you have Filed installed. I believe it's an agent, right? So you have it installed in your machine and then you get the agent on. So the agent is kind of like watching everything that you're doing, so it's able to analyze everything that you're doing and then come up with suggestions in which you can optimize your work and get things done quicker. Have I?
So think of it as, as you start listening to music through Apple Music and Spotify, your suggestions become clearer and music is given to you in the way that you like to receive it. Uh,
Nice.
Decisions are very similar. As a tax professional, you know how you handle maybe aggressive depreciation or if you use straight line depreciation methods in your practice. And working with File, we effectively ingest all of that previous information that's buried away on all the previous year's tax returns that you've worked on. We surface some rules, some playbooks effectively, and then you kind of change the knobs. You kind of fine tune, and we want to be a little bit more focused on rounding every cent to a dollar just for ease of
Yeah.
sake. We look at deductions that are less than $50 on lunches and so on and so forth. So you set some rules, right? You have some practice generic rules that
Yeah,
you
you gotta.
business.
Yep.
And more importantly, our agents follow that rule to now effectively find the best tax strategy for any given taxpayer that a firm works with, and then just follows that process, just like a junior would in gathering the documents, taking it into the tax software, preparing
Yep.
that after the work
Yep.
papers have been created, and then giving it to
Nice.
a partner usually for review. And that's what File does. And you've got now work papers that have got annotations in there, tick marks in there, and it's got that work being done by AI, which is when you see the thing, you're like, it's
All
incredible to
right.
see how quickly things have moved.
Well, like, that's exactly what I was going to be asking you next, because the industry is buzzing, and let's be real, not everyone is thrilled about AI, right? There are some CPAs who are like, finally, and obviously a lot of people who are also listening to this, as you're explaining filed, a lot of CPAs will be like, finally, there's a solution there. And then there could be some who are like, Skynet is coming for my job. So what do you think is the biggest misconception tax professionals have about AI right now?
Yeah, I hear this a lot, and the biggest misconception is that professionals will be replaced by AI,
Yeah.
and that's not ever going to be the case. Taxpayers work with their tax professional because of the relationship, because they know them sometimes better than they know themselves. They know their
Yes.
future plans. They know what it is that they long for. What is their legacy that they're trying to create as a taxpayer? You work with your professional in this case, and they can help you leave legacy behind. And this is a very personal relationship. So we believe that the misconception is that these amazing tax professionals will be replaced. In fact, we believe that clients deserve more human interaction, and that's where
Yeah.
tax professionals need to spend their time. And File's mission has been simple from the get-go. It's to make tax professionals extraordinary. And we
Yeah.
we make that happen by just giving them back the time to focus on the work that they find the most fun. I mean, who doesn't enjoy going out for lunches with
Yeah.
your client? Who doesn't enjoy, gathering with your clients at an after work and such?
I agree. I agree. And you made what you want to, and what made you want to go like all in on this file? What was your personal motivation behind building in this space?
Yeah, I've spent 14 years building accounts payable and accounts receivable products for the internal accountant, the CFO of many small businesses. And two of those companies unicorned. And after spending my time building that in Europe, as maybe your listeners would have heard now, I'm British. But I
Yeah.
had experience in the US where I met somebody who, opened my eyes to the world of tax professionals. And
Hmm.
after spending some weeks in their office. He introduced me to another friend of his, and then all of a sudden we found ourselves interning. I'm in my mid-30s, and I went back to basics, almost like an intern, buying people, lunches and making coffees and teas in the office just to get a moment with folks. And this was all across
Yeah.
Colorado, Arizona, Las Vegas, and Utah. And after spending about 3 to 4 months, the clear idea dropped upon us right in front of us when one of the firms said, well, hey, how is it that my team in India who they were working with can use file? And we were like, wow, like there's so many more people in this office. There's a greater need, and that's when we decided to go to India, start figuring out some of the workflows with some of their teams there. And now we're safe to say, after 12 months, we've finally solved how to build this thing. And AI isn't supposed to take away the fun that humans enjoyed, and that's what we've kind of come to the conclusion now. So we believe that we should be doing the boring stuff and let filed give the time back to the professional to do the fun stuff.
Well, that's music to my ears. Let the AI do the boring stuff while we are focused on the high value stuff, right?
Yeah,
That's
the fun stuff, the high value stuff. That's why professionals got into this at the end of the day, right? You want to
yeah.
change the fabric of society. You want to ultimately get creative with tax law and have fun whilst doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now there's a lot of noise, all right? Every week I see that, there is a new AI product that is claiming to revolutionize accounting. Amongst everything else, there's an AI for almost everything coming out. But what's your advice to firms who are trying to separate the shiny object from the real deal?
Yeah, I feel that the very fast moving world of consumer AI, we've all familiarized ourselves with ChatGPT and these other incredible systems, has meant that the illusion is that AI is perfect and AI can just take what you tell it and redo the work and redo the work and redo the work. And you can ask AI to write you a rap about your shopping list and in the Snoop Dogg
Yeah.
voice,
Yeah.
and it's an incredible amount of stuff that you can do now. But tax, we don't get the luxury of making mistakes here. I mean, with all due respect, if your rap that was created with ChatGPT has a comma in the wrong place, it's not the end of the world. You'll
Yeah.
just next sentence, but a comma in the wrong place inside of a field inside of a tax return could be detrimental. And that's why we have to set guardrails in place. So we believe there is a lot of hype, and that's fantastic. But we also want to bring the expectations down just a notch for the professionals who work with us, for the hundreds of firms that we have on board, to say to them, look, um, this is not an overnight success. You have to work with the systems. You could say, tell it where it went wrong, where it's
Got to
going wrong.
calibrate it. Yeah.
Calibrate it, exactly. And by calibrating it, you'll get the best outcome. We say it typically takes 3 months to calibrate it to what is those judgment calls that you make as a firm. So it does
Yeah.
take a little bit of time, but I want to say that there is a lot of hype. And what people should do as well is just make sure that when you're talking to folks, that truly it is AI that they're working with, because we also know in this world there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and you want to make sure you're working with the real deal.
Do you want to earn CPE credit? Take this course of MyCPE ONE to earn free credit. Click the link in the description to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and let me ask the flip side. In fact, this is something that I am also a little bit anxious on. Is there a risk of us becoming too dependent on AI? I mean, what happens if the system breaks or the laws change faster than the tech updates?
So if the system breaks, you have to be able to take control. Just like if your software broke, just before the filing deadline, you have to be able to hop in and take control again. So we
Yeah.
do, of course, with all due respect, recognize that we have to have fallbacks. So we have fallback
Yeah.
measures. We've not yet had a issue, but no technical system is avoidant of risk. So we have fallbacks where effectively, as we're layered on top of the tax software, let's say you just say, for today, I don't want to use Vault. I want to go back to basics and I want to do the data entry myself. Well, then congratulations, it's your software. You can do that. So we do
Yeah.
obviously put the controls back to the user. There is the odd occasion where come April 12th, close the filing deadline like we saw last year, some people don't want to wait maybe the 15 minutes to 2 hours that may be needed when we've got a handful of K1s coming in and the logic is being created on the back end. They want to just quickly turn it out because the taxpayer has walked into their office and they want to see them, sit down with them and do the work in front of them. So you just take control of your
Yeah.
machine. And you open up CCH Access, you open up Drake, and you just enter the tax data as you would normally.
Yeah. But I tell you what you're saying you certainly in fact said a very interesting thing. You should always have a backup. What if this fails? That is, I think, very critical. It goes down all to the basics, right? Business continuity. You gotta have those things in place. Like ChatGPT, it has taken the world by storm. It's been there for a long time. It's got 700 million people logging in every week. That's a lot of users coming in every week. And if ChatGPT were to go down, which has happened in the past, that if at all it were to go down for, I don't know, 2 hours, 3 hours, or God forbid half a day, we've seen social media
Yeah.
just going crazy and people just going crazy and like, oh, this is done and our business
But
was dependent on it and all that.
yeah, and this is where I feel like you need to demand transparency from your tech vendors. You should look at
Yeah,
your tech vendors and ask them, what are your data processing policies? Like, where can it go down? So, File, we have a very transparent trust center where you can view all of our data protection, data policies, data processing policies, our SOC 2, our external penetration testing reports, and so on and so forth. But the one that gets people most excited is we have a top 20 firm that we work with, and we had to create this architecture that we could share to
yeah,
them and say, well, our systems go down where Microsoft goes down because our data is
yeah,
hosted on the same systems that you use for Outlook and that you use for Microsoft
yeah.
Azure. So our data is hosted
Nice.
on Azure East, Azure West service. So with all due respect, the least of your problems will be us going down. If Microsoft goes down, then maybe we're all out of business for a day.
Yeah.
I think like the
Which is
IRS might.
highly unlikely. I mean, highly unlikely for that to happen. I mean, like, but yeah, I mean, like, at the end of the day, you got to get the buck stops somewhere, right? The buck has to
Absolutely.
stop somewhere. But, one thing that you have been vocal about is that AI is the answer to the accounting industry's talent problem, right? So walk me through that. How does that actually help?
Yeah. There's no secret. It's been for the past few years the narrative that's kind of, you could say, shaken up the profession, the talent shortage, talent gap. And we've been very fortunate to be incubated this year by the AICPA and CPA.com throughout their startup accelerator. And that was also the theme of the conversation. But what we're seeing now is actually something very, very interesting. We're seeing a change that the dependency on young professionals who are not going into say accounting and tax is actually changing. People are kind of picking it back up. We've seen a slowdown over the past few months. I think there's some data yet to be reported there, but from what I've understood from those who have more access to the data is that it's getting better. I think it's the most important thing to
Yeah,
say. We
yeah,
believe that in the change in the technological atmosphere of products like Filed is going to create a resurgence where new young professionals are looking at quote unquote older industries like tax and going, all right, there is AI here. And the low value work that I know my dad used to do or my uncle used to do of sitting in front of, doing tax returns by hand is no longer the way that they're doing. They're not taping out a tax calculation on a 10 key
yeah,
calc and stapling it to a document anymore. I mean, the world is changing, and AI is going to now do all of this work. So you're going to have a new wave of folks. And we
yeah,
see a world where actually, with filed being in place, we want to make the tax profession one of the top 5 professions of the
yeah,
US. We want to make sure that people want to leave college as graduates and
yeah,
want to become accountants. So
yeah,
we can take away the low value work and we can ask the machines to do that for us, and we can get out
yeah.
there and be on the front line, be front of house, the maitre d' on the talking to the customers, entertaining, whining, dining. I mean, it's a glamorous lifestyle.
It is. It is a glamorous lifestyle. Indeed, it is. All right. So, and like you're absolutely right, because the generation today, Gen Z, as I were to say it, they're techno savvy. So they're able to embrace technology much quicker. And naturally, with the way artificial intelligence is shaping our profession and the way we do things today, it's natural that it goes on to become an attractive option for the current generation out there because it's tech enabled. It allows you to get rid of the boring stuff, and you can focus on the high value stuff, which everybody loves doing, irrespective of the age group. So I think you're absolutely right there. So let's picture this, right? There's a Gen Z intern, day one on the job, and they're not spending 5 years stuck in an Excel jail. So, like actually AI is actually going to accelerate that. So will AI actually help to accelerate their learning curve and career projection?
Yeah.
Or will that be still the same case like everybody else?
I mean, gone are the days where you're going to have to spend, 4 years, doing the 1040 work just to one day advance up to the 1120 and the 1065,
Yeah,
1120 work. We're going to see professionals now moving to the point where they're learning in just 1 year what they would have learned in 4 years. We
yeah,
have firms, a firm, Paramount Tax, one of the largest franchises across the US, doing
yes,
80,000 tax returns. They have many young professionals. We work with a select group of their offices, and in that office, I can list off the names. We've got people there who are progressing through their career quicker than they ever have because no longer are the preparers doing preparation. Preparers are
yeah,
reviewers. So now they're
yeah,
reviewing, you could say self-reviewing the work that AI has done. And now they're passing
yeah,
that up to their tax manager there, who's getting a peer review, but getting the AI annotations, the notes, the tick marks, the full write-up, the diff, the calculations, and they're able to now fly through that work with an improvement of 80% versus the time that they had before. So now we've got firms like JCG Tax, another firm that we work with down in Kansas City way. They've got professionals who are reporting to them, well, hey, something wrong with our systems because we're not seeing much work come in. It's like, well, the work's being done. How about you use your time now to get back out there, and you're seeing a shift where people are going to have to very quickly advance their social skills and get back to
yeah,
being on the front line of client relationship building, and no longer getting back office in front of a computer. It's a whole new world, and more importantly, you're going to be reviewing work. You're going to have a sharper eye on review, less on data entry. But just
yep,
in
yep,
that you have to go through, the work, the grind. You can't just skip
yes,
the stage. You have to
yeah. You
get to
can't
it.
skip it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's
You
why
can't skip it.
Fald has a learning mode that lets
Yeah,
people very quickly, point out areas of maybe, let's say, tax judgment calls that they have missed and why they missed it, and we surface that insight up to the partners and the tax managers so they can help their team recognize where maybe a preparer who's now a reviewer is missing a few things, so you can step in there and help them in real time.
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE One Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now.
all right. Now, like I'm going to ask you this. I'm not quite sure, if this is very much connected to your life, but let's say you're talking to a college kid, right? I'm not sure if you have kids, but
I
let's
do.
say
One year
you
old.
do.
My company's one
A
year old and
one
my
year
kid's
old,
one
too
year old.
young, too young. All right, too young to talk about accounting right now. But let's say you're talking to a college kid who is considering accounting, right? What would you say to them right now?
Yeah. This is one of those opportunities where we see a world where AI is doing a lot of the knowledge work, and
Yeah,
the real work is going to be in the human work.
yeah,
So, being in a profession that is truly, truly driven by relationships, truly driven by human work, now
yeah,
we can make humans extraordinary by using technology. And this is a great, great profession to make that happen. It's the lifeblood of, you could say, the accounting, my apologies, of the American dream, effectively. If you're able to help people with their taxes, there's two things that are guaranteed in this world, and tax is one of those. So it's going to be a case that there's never going to be a slowdown in demand. That much we can say.
yeah.
If you want to stick with a profession,
Absolutely.
loads of demand, that's human work, that's driven by relationships. Accounting is that.
All right, perfect, beautiful. Now let's time travel. All right, 15 years from now, what does the tax season look like? Am I talking to my AI avatar?
I don't even know where I'm going to be in 15 years, but I can tell you, I have a vision which is very simple. I view a world where you're no longer in front of a computer. Okay, we've made that very clear. You're not in back office. You're driving in your car. You're on the phone, and you're on the phone to an agent who's telling you, and of course you're on a Bluetooth phone, you're not with a phone even attached to you. Maybe the phone is in your glasses, or maybe,
Yeah.
the change, right? But you're talking to something which is telling you, this is the work that I did over the past 24 hours. Do I have your approval to
Yeah.
sign this off? Here are your
Yeah.
meetings for the coming day. Here are where you're going to be going to, and here is the prompts before that meeting. Remember last year, this person told us that they wanted to buy a home. Well, we've already navigated that particular tax strategy, and we've now surfaced, some simulations that we can talk them through. That's the world that we're going to go into. Advisory,
Nice.
advice, and it's going to be seamless work, just between humans and machines.
Absolutely. Very, as you're saying this, I'm only thinking about Iron Man and Jarvis, all right? We'll have our own versions of Jarvis who will be helping us through everything, right? That's a good feature to have.
It is.
All right. Now, while we're talking about AI, I always like to talk about this. What about the ethical landmines, right? What are the risks you're paying attention to as this technology takes hold?
Yeah, you got to make sure your vendors have the compliance in place. I mean, I think it's a mistake, genuine mistake, if I mean anybody's talking to a company that doesn't have the security protocols in place that the profession mandates.
Yeah.
We're not talking to individuals who don't understand SOC 2. We're not talking to individuals that don't understand SOC Type 1. We're talking to individuals who are governed by a body, the AICPA, that governs SOC 2. It's
Yeah.
constantly reminded to the profession. So you have to make sure that if you talk to a vendor, right, I want to see your SOC 2 reports. I want to see your SOC Type 1 reports. I want to see how you're handling data. I want to make sure our data is being treated fairly. I want to see what is your data protection policy. What is your privacy policy? What is your WISP? Effectively, we should be asking the same questions that our clients ask firms effectively. I want
Yeah.
to know, is my data going to go offshore? And if it is, I need to give you the consent and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. So
Yep.
you have to go into conversations and not be afraid as a professional to ask the hard questions, which honestly are just not hard. There should be a place on the website that points you to this information. You shouldn't have to go
Yes.
around, speak to sales to find out what you need to know.
Yes. Yes. That's very necessary. That's very necessary. And especially when you're dealing with accounting data or tax data, which is very much private. And when you need to have proper protocols in place, and especially you need to be also educating yourself as well as the staff on the ethical use of data and how much you can share with AI. And if at all you're sharing with it any AI, you
Yeah,
should be having proper clarity on where that data is going, where it's getting stored, what it's remembering, what it's not remembering, all that. You got to be careful with that. So
absolutely.
I mean, like, okay. I know, like, I don't want to scare people, right? The idea of this call is, like, you have got the product out there. So let people know that this is something that is there out there, a product out there that is completely transparent, who has been working with a lot of firms. It's built on an ethos of creating that future, which is very much focused on the profession, right?
Mhm.
So for firms who are listening in right now thinking, okay, we need to try something, all right, what's the one easy, no regret step that they can take to start experimenting with AI?
I mean, of course, biasly, I'm going to say you should head over to file.com and take a look at what we're doing. But look, transparently, without talking about ourselves, I just want to shine a spotlight on what else is out there. I'm acutely aware there are stages to you could say overhauling the entire process of a firm. You got a lighter touch where you can go to do research. You can do
Right.
research inside of the systems that effectively you use today. Chat GPT is a great example, but make sure that you have the business account. Don't use a personal account. Reasons being that, of
Yes.
course, there is provisions there to not train on that data. So
Yeah.
just go into ChatGPT with your business account and have the confidence to know that you can ask questions. You don't have to give the first name or last name. You don't have to give an SSN. You don't have to give any details, PII, but you can ask questions around, I have this problem. And of course, more importantly, my customer has this particular matter. What do you think? just start there. And of course, as you're able to learn how to prompt correctly, you're going to get more in tune with what the potential is of AI. So we always guide our customers to say, look, if you're unsure, here's a few prompts that you should do inside of ChatGPT. And of course, I use it. Everyone uses it in the startup world. And most importantly, dip your toe in the water, get impressed. We have a similar setting inside a file that can now use that kind of level of information, but in a secure way. We can actually ask those questions now directly on your customers. So now you've got John Doe, one of your taxpayers, inside a file, and you can ask the questions. John's case is the following: how can I help John save money on his tax strategy this year? And now we can, take what you've done in ChatGPT, for instance, but translate that now into filed effectively, asking specific questions about your specific taxpayers in a safer and secure way.
Yeah, yeah. And plus, File has got access to a lot of information, so it's able to give a more concrete and relevant answer.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh, you know,
File is connected into all of your document management systems, inside your practice management
yeah,
system. So with all due respect, the reason why ChatGPT business account can't do that is because they haven't integrated into your practice management system. So we are there, and you can ask those questions to us. And of course, recognize that the underlying technology is all the same. But of course, we've got those security protocols in place to make sure that we don't send that data upwards to anybody.
all right, perfect. All right. So, Leroy, this has been phenomenal. Now, where can our listeners go to check out Filed and follow your work?
Absolutely. Filed.com. Couldn't get simpler than that. You can also
All
connect
right.
with me on LinkedIn. And my full name is Leroy Kerry, Leroy Kerry. So looking forward to anyone who wants to connect and talk more on all things AI and tax.
All right, perfect. And folks, we just covered AI, talent, ethics, education, and the future of your job in under 30 minutes, I guess. So you're welcome. And big thanks to Leroy Kerry for breaking it down in plain English. This isn't about robots taking over, it's about reimagining what accounting could be: more creative, more human, more impactful. So that's it for we're trying to figure out for this episode. Until next time, take care and keep innovating in everything that you do. Cheers.
Cheers.
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE One Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now